So hi there, and welcome to the Common Constitutionalist Weekend Video Podcast. And my name is Brent Smith, and I'm the Common Constitutionalist. And in the rain, it's not driving rain right now, but it's been that way, and it's supposed to be that way for the next several days. But I'm safely under a gazebo, so I should be good to go, unless we get some sort of gale force winds or something driving me away. Anti-M. So anyway, today we're going to be talking about one topic, and it's regarding the NRA and an anti-NRA group. I don't know, just trying to get rid of the NRA, for want of a better term, and how much money they've raised and whatnot. And that's what we'll discuss today on the Common Constitutionalist Weekend Video Podcast. Yay! You're watching the Common Constitutionalist Weekend Video Podcast. Back, got my notes. Should be good to go here. Pretty quiet day out today because it's raining, so no one's at the park. Hooray! Like I said, I'm under a beautiful gazebo, so I should be good. So you know the saying that people vote with their wallets. It means that basically people cast their votes for whomever or whatever has or will benefit them financially, either now, future, or whatever. All right. So. It's why in a roaring or a booming economy that most incumbent presidents will never be unseated. They'll never be defeated in an election. Because of that, they get the blame for a bad economy, and they get the kudos for a good economy, despite the fact that it's supposed to be Congress's job, but whatever. So anyway, but the saying also applies to pretty much everything. Not just elections. The stock market's a good example. People invest their money in what they believe will most benefit them now or in the future, all right? Or be beneficial for something or someone. So the saying also applies even to charities and to fundraising. Americans are the most generous people on the planet. Probably the most generous people that there ever have been, ever. But we only give to a charity that we feel are worthy cause. We don't only give to places or charities that we feel that are worthy causes. And so that's kind of like voting with your wallet too. It's easy to, and this is the funny thing, if you ever watch these telethons and stuff, it's easy to say we support something, but it's quite another thing altogether to support whatever it is, by way of voluntarily parting with your money, with your hard-earned cash. It's why the numbers, you know, you get these numbers on the telethons, the old Jerry Lewis telethon, we just raised $1.5 gazillion, and that's the pledges, and so you pledge the money, and it's easy to call up. You get caught up in the moment, and you call up and say, I want to pledge $50, I want to pledge $100, I want to pledge $25, whatever it happens to be. And then then they send you the pledge card, or you're supposed to go online and actually follow through with that pledge. But there's a cool-off period between the time that you were all heated and hot and bothered over this is a great charity or this is a great fundraising cause, and the time that you actually have to pull out your wallet and say, and pony up. And so that's why a lot of these pledge counts are false or inaccurate, because that's when it comes down to parting with your hard-earned cash, opening up your wallet and actually voting with your wallet, your head, and not with your heart. And that's the whole point about these telethons, is they send these actors up there, and these you know, the people that are being fundraised for, or whatever it happens to be, the disabled or whatever it is. And they send them out there, and they tug on your heartstrings purposely. I mean, obviously, most of this stuff is for good causes, so it's not like I'm not denigrating the point of this, but that's the way they do it. That's the way they market this thing. So they send out there, they send the people out there, they tug on your heartstrings, they get you to call in to pledge, and then like I said, the heartstring moment passes, and then you start thinking, man, there's much better ways I think I can that will benefit me personally to spend that 50 bucks on than sending it to Jerry Lewis or whoever, all right? So, and it's also why when you actually look at our American tax structure, that it's why that we're forced to pay taxes, that we don't pay taxes voluntarily. And it's why Woodrow Wilson jammed through the Second Amendment, the Second Amendment, right, NRA, Second Amendment. The 16th Amendment, where Congress can steal from you legally, and it's an amendment, so we have to go along with it. It's not just a law, obviously. And it basically gave the government the power to tax, and they've taken full advantage of that. And that's what led to withholding tax in our paychecks, obviously. The statists knew that we would never voluntarily submit to paying the government that amount of money from our checking accounts or savings accounts or whatever. So that's how the withholding tax came about. It's just a slime ball way to steal our money. No one would otherwise voluntarily give the government money for most of their idiotic programs. It just wouldn't happen. So that's why the withholding tax, so they can just take it before you even know it's gone. And just imagine if you will, that everyone had to cut a check to the government every semi-annually or every quarter. We'd get probably past about maybe the first month, and then there'd be pitchforks and torches at Capitol Hill and the White House. There'd be an armed revolt on our hands, and there's just no two ways about it. And that's why withholding is so effective, that for most people that get a salary check or an hourly wage and stuff like, and they get paid a salary each week or every couple of weeks or whatever happens to be. Most people don't even know what their gross pay is. They look at their check and that's how much they make. Well, that's obviously not how much they make, and that's the beauty or evil of the withholding tax, is they take it before you even get a chance to do anything with it or appreciate it. That's why, like I said, if we were to go back to you have to cut a check to the government every month or every 6 months, there'd be armed revolt after the first payment is due. There's no way, and there's no way that most people would go for it. It's just impossible. So it's just easy to withhold it, to steal it, before we even know it's gone. That's the way it works. But for voluntary giving, it's this is where it's easy to gauge the interest and worthiness of the cause by just how much money is given or raised, all right, voluntarily. People pony up on their own voluntarily, and they give because they want to give, and they actually follow through on the pledge, and they give their money to a charity or a fundraiser or whatnot. So, and more often than not, it's much more profitable to target conservatives, obviously, and we know this, because as leftists are only willing to donate other people's money, not their own. I mean, hey, it's just the way it is. As one group recently discovered, shall we say. So we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back, and I'll get into this, the NRA newsletter that I get, and this interesting piece from it. Be right back.
You're watching the Common Constitutionalist video podcast.
Yeah, baby!
Okay, I'm back. Now, this is from the NRA ILA newsletter that I receive daily, every other day, whenever it comes out. I receive it in my email, and it usually has at least one good article pertaining to the NRA and what their fight for our Second Amendment rights. So they write that crowdfunding is a relatively recent innovation that allows a person to cause to leverage the vast reach of the internet to raise money for virtually every imaginable purpose. And I know that personally because I've crowdfunded a few things myself for friends, loved ones, whatever you want to classify them as. It's a tough gig, but it's well worth it at any rate. Okay, so even small donations of a few dollars can aggregate, they write, into impressive sums with sufficient participation. It also provides an interesting window into the sorts of appeals that move people into parting with their own hard-won cash as participants vote with their wallets. Hey, is there an echo in here? To that extent, or excuse me, rather than just their online clicks or survey questions. And again, it's easy to pledge money. It's easy to click something. It's easy to answer a survey question. But when you actually have to part with your hard-won cash, that's a completely different gig, man. They got to make you want to do it. So to that extent, it can provide some insight into what issues really attract substantial grassroots support. It does, however, require a crowd. This is classic. I love this. It does, however, require a crowd. This recently proved to be a problem for a national appeal aimed at raising funds for the so-called National March on the NRA. I don't know where the March on the NRA, are they just going to march on top of us? What's going to happen? I'm a member of the NRA in good standing. In the National March on the NRA, the acronym is NMNRA. Maybe that means No Mo NRA. That's what I'm going to call it. No Mo NRA. That's what I'm going to say. So despite the efforts, prominent exposure on the organizing entity's website and social media platforms, and the hype the event itself received from news apparatus eager to portray gun control as enjoying resurgent popular support, the No Mo NRA's online fundraising effort was an unmitigated bust, and boy howdy, you ain't kidding. It was an unmitigated bust. How much did No Mo NRA raise? Well, I love this. I love sticking it to the lefties, particularly when it comes to the Second Amendment stuff, because they think that this is such a huge issue, and it's on everybody's radar, and everybody wants to get rid of guns just like these whack jobs, and that is not the case. And like I said, when people vote with their wallets, this is when you truly find out what people really, really do care about. It isn't just clicks, it's not just surveys, and it's not just opinion nonsense. This is when the rubber hits the road, when you actually have to donate to an organization like No Mo NRA, and you got to donate your own money and not just steal it from somebody else to give the way the left always does. That's when you get a good gauge of the popularity of No Mo NRA. So before the campaign finally closed, it had attracted only 3 contributors who ponied up a grand total of $70. $70 to No Mo NRA. Geez, I wonder why the fundraiser closed. Holy crap. The author says, here in Northern Virginia, that might just get let me try that one again, shall we? The author says, here in Northern Virginia, that might just about get you a tank of gas for an 8-passenger van. Maybe. And as astute observers of gun control advocacy already know, there is very little that is grassroots about this. Its funders are principally billionaires who believe their vast wealth entitles them to remake American culture in their own image. Guys like Bloomberg, George Soros, and Paul Allen. They are the fortunate few in number, but undeniably mighty in resources. And they have to be, obviously. This is me talking. Because if these rich lunatics didn't fund all this stuff and these wacky causes, all the causes would just evaporate. Because like I said, leftists, your average leftist, if they don't have anything to gain but their, like No Mo NRA, they're not going to part with their own money. They want to steal the money from us and then give it to their cause. That's the way that's why they love the government, because the government can take our money on their behalf and give it to one of their pet causes. That's the way it works. So we're going to take another quick break, and then we'll move on and wrap this up.
You're watching the Common Constitutionalist video podcast.
Yeah, baby. Yeah.
All right, I am back, and we were we were discussing the fundraising efforts by the National March on NRA, or my pet name for it is No Mo NRA, and what an unmitigated disaster, failure, or bust their national fundraiser, their national fundraiser for No Mo NRA was a grand total of 3 contributors for $70. 3 for 70. Yeah. That's like the fight for 15. This is 3 for 70. Yeah, baby. That's awesome. Don't you just love it? I love it, frankly. Maybe I shouldn't love it, but I just do. I love just sticking it to them, and I think this is awesome. So we were talking about the billionaires, the Soroses, the Bloombergs, the Paul Allens, those guys, that if they didn't underwrite these wacky leftist groups, there would be no wacky leftist groups, because the government can't fund them as much as a lot of people in government would love to fund these. The government can't fund them, so they have to be funded by these whack job leftist statists who do it for their own purposes, mainly George Soros. We're not going to get into that. Do another hour diatribe on George Soros and his underlying motives, so to speak. And Nanny Bloomberg is just that. He's just a nanny. He wants to tell you how to live your life in every single aspect there is. So let's just imagine for a moment, imagine again, if you will, that there was no George Soros, there was no Michael Bloomberg, there was no Paul Allen, there was no Tom Steyer, or Bill Gates, or Warren Buffett, or any of these wacky leftist billionaires that fund these ridiculous programs. Imagine how much better, just imagine how much better our nation would be without them funding these ridiculous programs, without them funding these ridiculous marches and protests and everything else, because they do. They fund every single one of these wacky leftist things, the Black Lives Matter movement, all these things, Occupy Wall Street, that was their deal too. They are the money behind this, because it takes money to pull this stuff off, and we know for a fact, now again, perfectly demonstrated by No Mo NRA, collecting all of $70, how ridiculously pitiful the left is without either government assistance or billionaire assistance. That on their own they are completely and utterly, what we know they are, useless. Now, I'm not suggesting that the Steyers or the Soroses or the Bloombergs be stopped or banned or barred from being able to do this. It's their money. They can do with it what they want, you know, or how they wish. They can donate it to any wacky cause they want. They can put on any protest or any march they want. It doesn't matter to me. Well, it does matter to me, but the point is that we're in America. They're free to use their money in whatever way they choose to use it. All I'm just saying is that imagine how much better off we would be if they just stopped funding all of a sudden all these wacky leftist radical causes. How much better that we'd be. Because again, if they pulled their money out, these causes would evaporate tomorrow. They would have no recourse because they've got no other source of funding. That's it. That's all they got. So dare to dream on that in that regard. But what are you going to do? I mean, it's like I said, it's a free country. They're free to spend their money any way they like. Okay, so as the newsletter continues, what they haven't yet managed to do, however, is to create a culture in which the idea of taking away other people's money moves ordinary individuals to sustained action. Causes that have attracted and they go through a couple of ridiculous causes that have attracted more money than No Mo NRA and their $70. Okay, so here's just a couple of causes that the NRA ILA newsletter found that well surpassed the money raised by the No Mo NRA people. They include a young man seeking money for booze and cigarettes. He raised 224% more. He had 224% more support than the No Mo NRA crowd. An aspiring yoga instructor raised 750% more. And a parade float for a mother who wears... This is great stuff. Man, you got to wonder about who gives to these people. I mean, money for booze and cigarettes. The guy's got some stones to go up there and crowdfund for money. At least he's honest about it. That's the whole point. These lefty organizations, they're not honest about what they really want to do. They don't want to limit our rights, so they don't want to just have common sense gun laws. They want to take all our guns away, and we should have no right to own a weapon. We have no right to carry a weapon of any kind, and that's the way, that's what their purpose is. They can't be honest about it. At least the money for booze and cigarettes, guys, is honest, which is why he raised 224% more moolah than No Mo NRA. So, but the big winner they found in the ridiculous category is a parade float for a mother who wears heavy metal t-shirts, and she raised a whopping 6,084% more money than the paltry $70 that No Mo NRA raised. That is just just awesome. And maybe if the crowdfunding or the fundraiser hasn't stopped or hasn't ended for the mother who wears heavy metal t-shirts, heck, I'll go on there just for kicks and donate $10. Why not? And probably that's what happened. Is just on a lark. People just said, "Hey, let's donate to this. Donate to this." Probably some grandma or something. So, more to the point, there has also been greater support for a competitive shooter hoping to participate in an international match. This competitive shooter raised 1,357% more, and a young cancer patient's hunting fund. This young cancer patient, part of the NRA, wants to raise money so he can take a hunting trip, or his family wants to raise money so this kid can take a hunting trip, guns, and they raised 2,357% more money than No Mo NRA. So that's just fabulous. So for months, the mass media has been insisting that America has turned a corner in its popular support for gun control and its opposition to the NRA. You know what? Hold on a minute. Be right back. How's that grab you, Bob? No Mo. How's that no Mo? So, I brought this along, forgot to put it on. What are you going to do? So for months, like I said, the mass media has been insisting that America has turned a corner in its popular support for gun control and its opposition to the NRA, but talk, as they say, is cheap. And that's exactly it. Leftists love to talk, they love to virtue signal, they love to do everything else but get rid of their part with their own cash. Again, like I said, that's why we have a government. In the left side, that's why we have the government. The government steals from all of us, doesn't steal from the rich and give to the poor. They steal from all of us, and they give it to the select pet projects that will garner them the most votes. That's the way the left looks at government. When you get past a media filter and see the sorts of choices Americans are making on their own, it becomes pretty clear that they're not buying what the gun control advocates are pushing or selling. And ain't that the truth? That's for sure, and that's why the NRA has more members now, I think, than any time in history. And it's because of President Trump's support, Vice President Pence's support, Oliver North, the new president of the NRA. Could they have handpicked a better guy? Wayne LaPierre, the VP? Are you kidding me? These guys are awesome, and they'll do a great job going forward with the NRA, which is a single issue advocacy group. And that's another thing I really like about the NRA, is they don't go out and advocate for anything else but the Second Amendment. All right? So that's fabulous. As a matter of fact, Brett Kavanaugh, the Supreme Court Justice, I'm not a huge fan of Kavanaugh. If he were to come up for vote to confirm, I probably could confirm him, but I've got some questions about him. Although the NRA is firmly behind him, and why? Because they are a single advocacy group that only looks at the NRA, only looks at the Second Amendment and gun rights, and Brett Kavanaugh is strong as an ox on Second Amendment and gun rights. So that's the difference between, say, me as an individual and NRA as a group, is they've held true to their purpose, and I congratulate them for that. And I think this is a perfect example of just how ridiculous the gun rights movement is, just how ineffective it is without government or billionaire support. There is no cause, there's no nothing without it. So other than that, that's about all I got. So this is my, yep, this is me, sure enough. This is Brent Smith, I'm the Common Constitutionalist, and this is my weekend video podcast you've been watching. I appreciate that. Y'all have the blessed balance of the weekend. I intend to, despite the rain. We'll talk at you one way or the other next week. It's either going to be audio or video, but one way or the other, you get me again. What a treat. See you.